Hey, Dallas Reese here with Carolina Stories of the American Revolution. I just want to say thank you to all those people who are watching these videos I'm doing. And I wanted to explain a little bit about what I'm doing and why I'm doing it now, because we are celebrating 250 years of freedom here in America. And the American Revolution is why we're here. If we had not freed ourselves from British rule, we probably wouldn't have the government we have, a constitutional republic, and we certainly wouldn't have the freedom that we enjoy, whether it's freedom of speech or to gather, assemble, and to do stuff like this. And I hope that these videos will be educational, not only for you, but for your kids, for family, for friends, and for a lot of those people who maybe have never really studied the American Revolution. I've been working on it for 3 or 4 decades. I started getting into it when my father and I were doing genealogy, and I found out that my 6th great-grandfather was Lieutenant Colonel James Steen, who fought for the South Carolina militia. He started fighting at the Snow Campaign in 1775 and continued with Colonel Thomas Brandon being his superior officer in the regiment that they were in all the way up until the time that he was killed after the Battle of Kings Mountain in 1780. I'll have more on that, and I've got some interesting stories on him and many other Revolutionary War soldiers. And, you know, that's what this channel is all about. It's the stories that happened between 1775 and 1783 here in South Carolina and in North Carolina, and of course all the auxiliary areas that had anything to do with those folks that were from here. And the reason these are my focus states are because, well, that's where I'm from. I grew up in North Carolina and I live in South Carolina now. My mom's family has been in South Carolina since the 1680s. My dad's family had been in North Carolina since the early 1800s, parts of them since the 1700s, and they'd been in Virginia before that. And in fact, my dad is a descendant of a Hessian soldier. These were hired mercenary guns for Germans who fought for the British in the American Revolution. I also have some loyalists on my mom's side and my dad's side who fought against the Americans during the Revolution. And I have a lot of Continental soldiers and a lot of militia in both North and South Carolina who fought for the American side. So that's why I'm doing this channel. I hope it's fun. I hope it's educational. I love traveling around the Carolinas, going to all these different places and seeing the sights and talking about these battles and things that happen and the incredible stories of human determination, effort, ambition, sense of protection, and of course, just the desire to be free and the desire to survive, which was a big desire. And I hope you'll join me here on Carolina Stories of the American Revolution as I bring these stories to you throughout the coming years as we celebrate 250 years of independence between now and about 2032 or so. So have a great day. Check me out online. You can find the Facebook page. You can also find Instagram, Carolina Stories of the American Revolution. Look it up. I don't have a whole lot of content on there yet. I'm working on getting more going. I still play a music schedule about 6 days a week, spring, summer, and fall, and I'll have a lot more time in the winter. And I'm working on a couple of books as well on the American Revolution period. I want to say thank you, number one, to Durant Ashmore, who's a big influence. He lives in the upstate. If you ever get a chance to see him do a lecture, go see him up in Lawrence County. I also want to thank all those historians who preserved the history here in South Carolina. Folks like Dr. David Ramsey and Edward McCready and William Gilmore Simms. I'm trying to think of all the people from the 17 and 1800s. And then 1900s, you got Reverend James Say and Lyman Draper, who wrote the history of the Kings Mountain battle with the help of Reverend Say, by the way. A lot of the info for that book came from him. And the Reverend J.D. Bailey, who was a minister here in South Carolina in the late 1800s, early 1900s. So many historians, too, around the Carolinas. Of course, Walter Edgar, who does an incredible podcast on the American Revolution on South Carolina Public Radio. And also Will Graves, who's done so much research on the American Revolution, and he's been transcribing the pension applications for Revolutionary veterans. He did this a long time ago, but boy, the help, and there's so many other people. I know I'm forgetting J.D. Lewis. He does a site on North and South Carolina called Carolina. You should look that up, and there's so many more. I know I'm missing a lot of people, but I want to say thank you to all these people who keep the history alive for our kids and for the coming generations. Thanks so much for joining me. I'm Dallas Reese. Have an awesome 250th anniversary year.